This is the Vegas Huddle with Mike Davis.
What's up, guys? Mike Davis here inside the den at Fox 5 for the Vegas Huddle. We got a great show for you today. Yes, we got one of the masterminds, one of the shrewdest businessmen when it comes to the world of boxing. It's the CEO of Mayweather Promotions. It's the great Leonard Ellerbe. Leonard Ellerbe is joining us inside the Vegas Huddle this morning. Leonard, it's great to have you here. You got a great businessman look. You look comfortable and cool right now. How's it going?
Oh, it's doing great. Fight week, Canelo Alvarez taking on Jermell Charlo.
It's a big fight week. We're going to get into that whole entire fight. But before we do that, I want to talk about you and your story, because I think it's an amazing story. You're a D.C. guy, grew up there, and, you would fly into Vegas for fights. And as a teen, though, you kind of had so many injuries to your hand that your dream of becoming a fighter kind of was lost. And now you've become this businessman who's really taken Floyd Mayweather from a boxer to a brand. If you look back on your career, thinking about how this all came to shape and came to life, what do you think about when you look back and you think of where you were and where you are now?
It's been an incredible journey. I look back now, I'm starting to actually enjoy it, because during the pandemic, I had a chance to actually kind of reflect, go back and watch a lot of our old fights, the build up to the fights, a lot of interviews that I had done. And, so it's just been, it's been really, really amazing to witness this journey by TBE,
Right.
The best ever, Floyd Mayweather.
And it's interesting because, humble beginnings, right? I was reading you grew up and you're in a 1-2 bedroom apartment. You're sleeping like head to toe with your brother, right? Growing up, mom and dad were cleaners, and boxing was just a way of life. Survival in D.C. in that area, that time, you're looking up to Sugar Ray Leonard, guys like that. But, why was boxing such a fixture in that D.C. area at that time? What did it mean to you as a youngster?
Well, as you put it, it was a way of life. If you didn't know how to defend yourself in my neighborhood, you would never make it. You had guys who were waiting in the woods because we had a pathway to go through the woods to get to school. And, guys were there ready to take your lunch money every day.
Wow.
And so if you didn't know how to defend yourself, that's what happened.
So when was your first fight? How old were you think?
Like 9.
9.
Yeah, like 9 years old.
And were you 1-0 or 0-1?
0-1. 0-1. 0-1. And I came to our apartment, and my mom was like, "What happened to your nose? It was bloody." And my dad was just like, "Get your behind back out there, and do what you got to do."
Right.
So and that's what it was. It's just you had to learn how to defend yourself. And once you were able to do that, the guys respected you, But everybody growing up in D.C., if you were from the D.C. area, everybody wanted to box. That was a thing back when I was growing up.
But as we all know, defending yourself in the street for lunch money is totally different when it comes to fighting inside a ring and making a living and being a professional boxer. So how did you start navigating that scene as an amateur and fighting young fights? Because I know you ultimately get hooked up here with Roger Mayweather, and that's how the connection starts. But when you're transitioning to then fighting in the ring, why did you love fighting in the ring so much?
Because it was a passion growing up again. Like everybody in the D.C. area, we had role models like Sugar Ray Leonard, and actually when I first started boxing, it was rough initially, but once I learned the trade, it became easy. So it was just, again, it was a way of life. And then hand injuries and always injuries at the most inopportune time prevented me from being that person, who was at the top of his game, who looked up to Sugar Ray Leonard.
Wow.
And so my mom, she said, "Hey, God has something else in store for you. This right here, the boxing part is not your journey. And then I went to school and got my bachelor's and master's, and then I meet Floyd Mayweather when he's like 13 years old. I think it was like 13 years old. I was out here for a fight, and he was coming out for the fight, and Roger had introduced me to him. He's the same guy he was 13 years old that he is to this day. Just full of joy, full of confidence, and we built a relationship afterwards, when because I was coming back and forth out to Vegas, and when he moved here in '96, then I was asked to join the team.
Yeah, and you were in the Air Force, and
yes,
you had you built a whole life, and that's what's so interesting is that you had the connection with Roger and
Jeff too,
and Jeff
too.
Okay,
Roger and Jeff.
And Jeff's who?
Jeff Mayweather.
Oh, Jeff Mayweather.
Jeff Mayweather.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so then you guys are together, and then but you had, even though you constructed this life that was a really good life. I mean, you grow up in humble beginnings, but you have a six-figure paying job. You're doing pretty well, and they come and ask you to come out and basically give up your life and now come work for Floyd, right?
Yes, and again, looking back on it, obviously, there were many people, naysayers, and saying, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
But again, my parents always taught me, trust your gut. Don't never worry about what others say and think. And I just followed my gut and my heart. It was the right thing to do. Just because I always wanted to put myself in the position to be able to take care of my family. That was the most important thing. Seeing my father and mother struggle. And again, we were in a 2-bedroom apartment. Me and my brother sleeping in the same bed, and we stayed next to the trash room. So, our apartment was full of roaches. But that was just
right.
How we grew up. And I just wanted something better for my parents.
Wow. And it's a beautiful thing because we'll get into the money and how much, Mayweather has earned. It's crazy. But what was it about Floyd at that 13 years old or something when you meet him? What is that? What was the quality that you think has set him over the top and just made him one of these guys who's, a fixture in boxing for all time, a guy who's just, one of the best ever? What kind of determination, what kind of grit, what kind of commitment to training did this guy have, and how did you recognize it?
Well, he come from a great family background. His dad, Floyd Mayweather Sr., his uncle Roger Mayweather, and Jeff Mayweather, they were all boxers, and they all had success in the sport of boxing. So it was embedded in him growing up. It was in the genes.
Yeah, he had a good pedigree.
Yes, he definitely had a good pedigree, and he had those guys to look up to. And so they did a wonderful job with acclimating him to boxing.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he knew. And when I met him, he was full of confidence. Of confidence.
And you need that as a boxer, right? That's a prerequisite.
Yes, as a boxer, you need to have that kind of confidence to know that you're the best.
And if you don't have it,
if you don't believe, who else is going to believe?
Right. It makes a lot of sense. And then when you think to, all the things he's done, but to think from your humble beginnings, and then this guy, I think I read somewhere $300 million alone from the McGregor fight. And I think 60% cut from, the De La Hoya, which probably was even more. So, it's crazy, the numbers. At one point, Forbes ranked him the number one, athlete in the world in terms of earnings. So tell us a little bit about
Not cutting you off, it was several times that he was the highest paid athlete in the entire world.
In that year, right.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. World. So when we think about that, educate our audience a little bit. How did you guys kind of formulate this new way of boxing? You were saying before you sat down and the new business of boxing, you said this is all going on before social media really blew up. So thinking about what you guys achieved prior to the state that we're in now, how did you guys do it?
Well, again, it takes teamwork. Floyd, myself, and Al Heyman. We put together a master plan. At that time, he was he was working with another promoter at that time, and
that was Top Rank and Bob Arum.
Yes,
right?
And he felt as though that he wasn't being promoted like he should have been promoted, and it was factual. At that particular time, I went to Arum, myself and our lawyer, John Hornauer. We went to Arum and sat down and told him, you can't promote Floyd like you're promoting Oscar De La Hoya. Floyd's African-American. Obviously, Oscar De La Hoya, he's Mexican-American.
Right.
And they were doing a phenomenal job with moving Oscar at that time because at that time, he was the biggest star in this entire sport. And so their focus was on him at that particular time because they were generating tons of revenue working with him. And, they were the mindset was just to promote him in the same concept as you would Oscar De La Hoya, but Floyd's African American. So, and there was at that time, it was hip hop was evolving at that time, and I sat down with Bob and I told him that there's a billion-dollar industry out there that was untapped.
Right.
That we needed to be marketed and promoted in that arena with our own people. Okay, and he's like, and to Arum's credit, it was several years later, he said that it was probably the biggest mistake that he had made ever in boxing.
Wow. It's interesting because to me, Floyd does have that almost AI Iverson quality to what AI did for the NBA, because I don't know if you see a Tank Davis if there is no Floyd,
Factual.
Don't you think?
Oh, no, factual. Because to Floyd's credit, Floyd, Adrian Broner discovered Tank Davis. And then Adrian Broner brought him to Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
So got to give Adrian, the credit where credit is due. And then Floyd saw something in Tank at that time, because Tank was 11-0, I think, at that time.
Right.
11-0, and he was just kind of buried in, the stable per se,
right.
And he was kind of fighting in ballrooms, and but once Floyd put that stamp on him, at that time, then he took off. His career took off, and credit to Tank, he listened to Floyd's direction.
Yeah.
And he understood. He has a very good team himself, and we formed a bond, and that was history. Done a phenomenal job with working, with him.
Yeah.
And he's a phenomenal fighter. He's my guy.
And it's cool because, before one last thing on just the business side of things, like we saw Oscar with Golden Boy Promotions and different stuff, but, fighters taking on the business side of the sport was always it wasn't a no-no. It was something, an added pressure and layer to things that a lot of players, boxers and fighters didn't do prior to guys like Oscar and Floyd. And now it's becoming more of a staple within the sport. What are those, those barriers, and having a guy like you around to help with all those types of, decisions in the business? I mean, how hard is it for somebody who is looking to get into boxing to take on that type of pressure and that side of the sport?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Floyd Mayweather doesn't get enough credit. He actually changed the game forever, boxing. He educated the fighters on just changing the mindset of and thinking like a business, that you are your own entity, and it doesn't work for everyone, but he completely changed the game and got fighters thinking that and understanding that they deserve the lion's share of the money.
Right.
Because unfortunately at that time there were only two promoters in the game, and we all know who they were. And they had all the fighters, and they had all the information.
Right.
So the elite fighters at that particular time, they didn't have the information, knowing what what was in the pot of money. And I'm solely talking along the lines of the pay-per-view guys.
Right.
At
that level.
At that level.
So you're saying Floyd really is the guy, if we're looking at a timeline, because, I mean, it's almost like I still think a lot of people think, Don King promotes the fight, Ali fights, like people still, we almost look back to that was the formula. And then at what point does the whole formula change and now fighters are controlling, is it Floyd? I mean, where does this end?
Floyd solely gets all the credit. Floyd
really?
Solely gets all the credit.
Wow.
Yeah, he is the one that changed the game.
Really?
He's the one that changed the game. He's the first one. Well, he wasn't the first one who formed his own company.
Right.
But he was the first one that had a team surrounded by him. That our focus was the business and his focus was the boxing. And in turn, we built the brand, built Mayweather Promotions.
Yeah. And
Floyd became his own boss.
Wow.
And that was the key. Essentially what we did was we kind of cut the middleman out. Let's call it what it is. We cut the middleman out.
Right.
Instead of at that time he had a promoter.
Right.
And then he became his own promoter.
Right.
And then so all the revenue was driven through his own company.
Right.
Where he got the lion's share of everything. He got 100% of it.
I love it. And it's so interesting, how the sport has changed, and it's changed for a lot of athletes. I mean, in the NFL, the NBA, we're seeing guys now more and more, they're taking ownership in the sense that it's almost like each individual player is almost their own corporation, and there's a whole way that they have to function and, form their business with chefs and and this is happening at all the highest levels. We've seen that with LeBron. It's one of those guys who that's the way they invest in their body. So that boxing individuality and that kind of construction of that element of competing as a high level athlete, I think it's even working its way into team sports now.
Without a doubt, because again, Floyd set that tone many, many years ago when he became his own boss. And I think the moment that it came to light of all the other elite athletes in other sports was when he became the highest paid athlete in the entire world, and he was only fighting twice a year. I was getting calls from, I don't want to say the names, but the top basketball player in the world,
Really?
the top football player in the world. They're having to play at the time 16 games, 82 games as a basketball player, not including the playoffs. And they're like, how did he make X in one night? And I play 82 games,
right.
playoffs, and I'm only making, and I made 20-some million dollars.
Right.
And here it is, he made $100 million, and he's his own boss. He can say and do what he wants to do, So that was a game changer. I got a lot of calls and told him, hey, we changing the game on how a boxer is his own boss, but the key to it was having a great team.
Yeah.
Because no one person can do it by himself.
How many people are part of the Floyd Mayweather team when you said when he was in the thick of it and really before he retired?
Well, our attorney, Al, myself, Floyd, the brains behind everything. Our publicist, Kelly Swanson, has done a phenomenal job. And she's actually still, running all the major promotions for the PBC. She's the best in the game. It's so many people I don't want to leave out,
right.
But that was the core of the team.
Gotcha.
And it was a tremendous sacrifice, especially for me. I worked like 15 years straight, 7 days a week, 20 hours a day.
Wow.
That whole middle part of my life,
yeah,
it didn't exist. It didn't exist, as far as, doing the normal things that adults, my age would be doing. I was working. I was working.
And you loved it, though.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was definitely, it was the best thing that I could have ever sacrificed to do, you know, and it's history.
It is history. And before we get into Canelo and Charlo, let's talk a little bit more just about, so I think the second phase after, you know, Floyd kind of started, you know, retiring and getting out of, you know, the boxing stuff, he really changed the game with incorporating these different types of exhibitions that were so exciting. I mean, from McGregor, you know, and Paul. I mean, these were very innovative things that nobody was thinking of doing. I remember a lot of people thinking, wow, like Floyd's going to bring an MMA guy into the ring with him, and like, what's that going to look like? Jake Paul, like, so tell us a little bit about how that came to be. Like, what, I mean, was it just Floyd wanted to continue challenging himself with stuff, and he just knew it would be such a great spectacle that people would want to take part in? And how nervous was the team to do something like that and mix kind of those sports?
It's what we call thinking outside the box. Thinking outside the box, and again, we have always, as a close-knit team, always found ways to be creative and think outside the box. And while the competition is sleeping, we were working. But
before we dive even deeper, because let's be real, I mean, the whole sport of boxing, it's so funny, but there is this ism that fighters and the team around them have, that because everything's about the record, and we don't want to, well, you got to do this, so we don't, you know, everybody's hesitant to make these choices because they don't want to make the wrong choice that could, you know, screw up future bouts, but also they don't want to, you know, do something too unconventional because it could be wacky, you know. So I think the courage to think outside the box is, you have to give yourself more credit for that than you think, because people are worried about, like, weight classes. That's just a whole thing in itself. People are scared to fight outside of their weight class because they don't want to maybe get a record issue there or some blah, blah, blah. So to bring somebody in like Conor McGregor, I mean, that's thinking out of the stadium. That's not a box. That's a whole different dimension, don't you think?
Oh, most definitely. And it was one of the most incredible promotions, the best promotion that I've ever been involved in. And you know, because you just sat back and let the two guys do what they do. And they're master showmen.
Yeah.
You know, who, and in Floyd's case, Conor always looked up to Floyd. He took Floyd's whole profile, his as we call it, his stilo, and he copied it.
His what?
His stilo.
Stilo. How do we spell that? I want to start implementing this into my vernacular. How do we say this?
Stilo.
STEELO.
I don't know how to spell it. That's what we call it. He took his whole stilo and his blueprint.
Gotcha.
And he copied it. But it was the smartest thing he's ever done.
Right. Because
I think prior to that, you know, they had done a really good job with promoting and marketing Conor at that time. But if I'm not mistaken, I think his career payday was $3 million at that point.
Right.
And he wound up making 9 figures for the Floyd Mayweather fight. You know, and he went on to parlay that into $1 billion.
Right.
You know, props to him and his manager and Dana too. They've done a phenomenal job with building his career, and you know. So
the inception for that really sparked from where?
Well, we as a team, we've always been thinking outside the box. I mean, I recall back in 2007 when I put him in Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
You know, I had studied that, and I understood that, you know, we thinking outside the box, that being on pay-per-view, because the whole goal was to get Oscar De La Hoya in the ring. And we knew that once we got him in the ring and Floyd was going to beat him, we knew that. But we were going to elevate Floyd to a whole nother platform and have access to people that we never had access to.
Right.
And so that was the key. I put him in Dancing with the Stars in 2007 when he during training camp when he was about to fight Ricky Hatton.
Wow. And I mean, so to do that, that it was all there was a methodical. It was all
most definitely. And then after we captured the middle-aged white women from Dancing with the Stars, they stuck with Floyd. That was he was building his base, and because the key to crossing over and being a mainstream superstar is you have to be able to bring the casuals, you know, to get them to want to watch you fight and to actually pay for it.
And do you think there's also, I mean, and tell me, I don't know if people come up to you, but as a guy who enjoys boxing but is not, you know, I'm not a genius in the sport of boxing, but was there always, I always found it fascinating how, listen, this wasn't, you know, Joe Frazier and Ali with bigger guys who are, you know, even when I was growing up in a Lennox Lewis, who was like, you know, a bigger, heftier, heavyweight guy. I always thought it was fascinating that Floyd was such a technician. It's like watching, it's like he's a boxer's boxer, right? But he's able to get the masses to be bought into watching him when there's not a ton of knockouts. There's not, but he's a technician. The amount of punches he's throwing and landing and that percentage was the fascinating thing. Was there ever, you know, from a marketing and business standpoint, you know, what Conor does in MMA or, you know, these guys, I mean, the spectacle of that is a little bit, okay, there's that wow factor. With the boxing, it's interesting how he was such a technician and a boxer's boxer, and he brought in the masses for that. Did you ever think about that, or was that something top of mind? Do you understand where I'm going here? No.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're going with that. It's because Floyd Mayweather, he's TBE. He's the best to ever do it.
It's like, you know,
he took his job very, very seriously. That was his focus.
Right.
He never drank or smoked, and he constantly stayed in the gym. He stayed in the gym, and he worked his behind off, and he surrounded himself with a great team. So he's doing his part, and we're doing our part. His sole focus was on winning. Winning and being the best version of himself. And again, I have to keep on saying that he took his job very seriously. He never cut any corners, and he didn't drink or smoke. And you know, like now, you know, fighters, athletes, they party. You know, he never delved into any of that. His focus was being the best. He always wanted to be the best, and the money and everything would come. And again, you know, what was amazing to me, you know, he's 300, 400 million in, and he's acting like he's broke and never made a dime.
It's, you need that determination, that discipline. Does he have a big chip on his shoulder? Was there something like that, or no?
Well, he did have a chip on his shoulder because, again, he felt as though he wasn't getting the credit that he deserved, you know, for his hard work. And, you know, at that time, you know, it was probably the whole pound for pound debate. You know, he was on the rise, and everybody we put in front of him, he would beat and do his thing, you know. And then he went from Pretty Boy to Money Mayweather, and that's when it all changed, from being Pretty Boy the fighter to Money May the villain.
What year was that when the money came in? Money Mayweather.
2007.
Nickname. That's a good, that was a good nickname.
2007. It was all him. That was his idea.
I love that.
Yeah, Money May.
And when you know, one more thing about ABC and Dancing with the Stars, I saw you were picking the brain of Mark Cuban. I was reading about that. What did you learn from him?
Oh my God, that was one of the coolest experiences ever. We were,
because he was competing that same year.
He was competing, with Floyd. Yes, and so we had trailers, and his trailer was next to Floyd's. So Floyd would at lunchtime, because we had like a 2-hour break, and Floyd had a place in L.A. I think a condo at that time, and so his driver would take him. You know, they would go to the mall or wherever, and I was on the mindset, it was like, I want to talk to Mark Cuban. And I asked him, you know, did he mind if I sat in the trailer, you know, and just kind of be the fly on the wall.
Really?
And while he was having, you know, business conversations, it was the coolest experience ever. Can you imagine just sitting in the room?
I mean,
sitting
that's
in the
amazing.
room, one-on-one, a trailer, one-on-one with a billionaire, and he's having these amazing conversations with business people, and you're just hearing bits and pieces, and you're asking little small questions when he would get off the phone, and then he was receptive to when we built a cool little relationship, because it was like that was my key to just understanding and thinking like a boss.
What was the biggest takeaway?
The biggest takeaway is
you
that
can impart on
he
us?
he's one of the smartest guys that I think I've ever met.
Wow.
But the way he just conducted business, and it was like he built relationships where he made people feel comfortable, but understanding that he's running a business at the same time, and people, he was a great boss. He was a great boss. And so many people looked up to him and wanted to run through the brick wall, as I would say, for their boss. And, he started, and he built that whole brand. And, I was just amazed. And till this day, we're still, still
That's
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
I would think he'd be going up to Floyd. How do you make $400 million in a night?
Well,
I'm trying to figure that one out. Without getting punched in the face.
Right. Right. That question has definitely came up from other very, very successful people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we're looking forward, to this weekend and Canelo, I mean, one of the titans now of boxing, and Jermell Charlo. I mean, why should we be excited about this pay-per-view fight? Tell us as an audience.
Well, it's been kind of like 10 years I ain't gonna say the making, the waiting.
Yeah.
Jermell has wanted to fight him for it's been almost 10 years. He was promised this fight back in 2014.
Wow.
By De La Hoya.
Yeah.
At the time he was working with him, and he told him that he would be able to, if he won when he fought Gabe Rosado, that he would get the Canelo fight. For whatever reason, it never materialized. It wasn't one of Jermell's better performances, at that time, but he got the W. And Canelo went in one direction, and he went in another direction. And here we are, 2023, September the 30th, Canelo versus Jermell Charlo. Again, this is going to be an incredible fight. You got undisputed versus undisputed.
Yeah.
It's never been done before. Canelo, again, his resume speaks for itself.
And explain the never been done before. How this has never been done before.
In the four-belt era, no, it's never been done before. You have Jermell Charlo, he's undisputed at 154 pounds, and Canelo, he's undisputed at 168. So you got these two guys coming together, giving the fans exactly what they want to see. Canelo's the I ain't gonna call him a heavy favorite, but he's the guy that everybody around those weight classes have been gunning for. And again, Jermell has been this promotion. He hadn't really said a whole lot, because in his mind he's very determined.
Yeah,
and he has the confidence that he knows that if he's able to pull this off, what this means for his legacy.
Yes, because I was watching a lot of the Showtime All Access stuff, and taking in that, and he said a couple things. They're both confident guys, like you said. You got to be, if nobody else is going to believe in you, you got to believe in yourself. Because nobody else is going to believe in yourself if you're not that way. But what would this mean? I mean, for Jermell, if he wins this, I mean, what then happens next?
Wow, he's going to be printing money. That's for starters. That's what's going to happen. But it just does something amazing for his legacy. I mean, imagine moving up 2 weight classes, 14 pounds, and beating a guy who's been on top of his game for many, many years. Canelo has, arguably the biggest name in the entire sport, which he does have the biggest name in the sport. He has the biggest fan base, and he's been on top for many, many years. And he's the guy that everybody's been gunning for at You know, he's been the number one top guy, him and Bud Crawford, since Floyd left the sport. Since Floyd retired, and again, when you look at Canelo's resume, you know, he's beat 18 world champions. You know, and this hadn't been talked about, but I think low key he's kind of chasing Floyd's record.
You think?
I kind of know that.
What's the record?
Well, Floyd's beat 23 world champions.
Okay, so he's at 18, and he wants to get that.
Yeah, he hadn't been vocal at all about it, because I think that's just kind of like how his how he is. He's a very humble guy, you know. But I'm sure in the back of his mind, since he didn't beat Floyd, that would mean something to him and his legacy if he could say he beat more world champions than him. Obviously, he's not a better fighter, because, you know, obviously, but hey,
everybody wants to stake their claim with something.
Yeah, and holding that record to beat more world champions than anybody in the history of the sport, that speaks volumes to the incredible fighter and the incredible success that he would have had, you know, if he's able to pull that off. But first things first, he's got his hands full this Saturday night with Jermell Charlo.
What is the attributes, the qualities in both fighters that you see that is similar to Floyd, if you had to draw parallels?
They both are winners. Yeah, they both are winners. With Canelo, I can honestly say, like, me personally, I'm impressed, because here it is, he's made several $100 million, and still to be able to be motivated into fighting these mega events, that speaks volumes to, you know, his commitment to the sport, and how he's still hungry, you know. Because can you imagine yourself if you made, you know, $300-400 million? Would you get up and want to come into Fox 5?
It's, you know what? And that's why I was going to ask you, is it harder to get to the top? Is the rise to the top harder, or staying at the top harder?
My personal opinion, I think staying at the top is harder, because once you become you have that target on your back once you become the top guy. Right. Because when you become part of your journey to becoming, you know, the top guy, is that there comes criticism with that, you know.
And it fuels the fire.
Yeah, of course. So you have to find ways to stay motivated, to be on top. You have to work harder to stay on top than you did coming up.
Right. Can you teach that to somebody? Like, if you, let's just say you're you're trying to construct the perfect boxer, right? You're making them in a laboratory. You know, would it be, you know, endurance? Would it be conditioning? Would it be a great jab, a great hook? Or would it really be the first thing you would pick in making a boxer in a factory? It would be that commitment to excellence, that the mental side of things. Is that the first place you would start, with that attitude and that discipline? Is that the number one quality that's most important in a boxer?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. You have to have the skill set, the determination. You have to have a good team. All those things combined, I think, is the remedy for success. But everybody's not going to be successful in boxing, because, again, it's you know, you got to have that heart too. The heart, that's big, because, you know, when you get punched in the face for a living, you know, sometimes, you know, it's hard. It's not sometimes. It's very hard, because the number one thing with boxing is that you put your life on the line every single time you step up in that ring, unlike other sports. Right. That's what makes boxing such a great sport, and why I love it so much, is because you're putting so much risk, you know, out there, and again, it's like, so when a boxer is able to be successful, and he know him or her has risked their life, it's an incredible feat.
Yeah, and that's why
incredible feat.
And that's why people tune in, and that's why people want to buy the Showtime and the pay-per-view and all that kind of stuff, because we're seeing somebody who is putting their life on the line, you know, and that's why the money, I think it's one of those sports, you hear it in other sports where people are like, why is this guy making so much money, you know, and, you know, they're doing load management in the NBA or whatever it is, you know, but in boxing, nobody ever says that. That purse, whatever that fighter gets, I mean, it's earned.
Totally earned.
You know?
Yeah, because you could actually step up in the ring and then never come out of there the same. Every time you step in the ring, a piece of you is left in that ring, whether you come out the ring, you know, with a minor injury, you've left a piece of you inside that ring, because again, it's such a brutal sport.
Do you think what is the future of boxing look like? Because so much of it is the personality, right? I mean, that's what, you know, people don't talk about that, I think, enough. Because Floyd did have the discipline, he had all that, but he just has an aura about him where you want to watch him. You know, he's got something going on. Like Tyson was like that. Ali, of course, is almost the originator of that kind of stuff. Like drumming up that kind of stuff. We're seeing it, you know, McGregor really had that with MMA. And there's certain guys that just have that quality. It's just like, I just want to watch this guy do their thing. You
we
know?
call it the it factor.
It factor.
Yeah, we call it the it factor. Either you got it or you don't.
And I think Canelo is the best in the sport. I just don't know if it's to the same degree as some of these other superstars that had that it factor to a whole nother level, you know? Where do we sit as a sport right now, and who are the guys who could bring that, and how do we get guys acting more that way so you're bringing that type of interest beyond the ring?
Well, I think that it has to be a natural thing. A natural thing.
You can't fake it.
Yeah, you can't really fake it. But you have to understand that there's two sides of this. There's the actual fighting in the ring, and then there's the stuff outside of the ring.
Yeah, the circus.
And you can't put one before the other. I mean, you know what I mean? You got to handle your business in the ring first.
Right.
And then you can branch off into all these other things. But the fighters of today are very fortunate to be able to have social media. Yeah. You know, which is a marketing / promotional tool within itself. Yeah. You know, they're blessed with that. You know.
What would that have looked like with Floyd? Let's just say Floyd started out like in 2007. I mean, Instagram, Facebook, it wasn't what it is now.
No.
What would have this looked like with that in the fold?
If we'd have had social media when Floyd was at the height of back then, when he was, you know, making that crossover and being a villain.
Yeah, you'd probably own Fox 5. You'd be paying me to do this.
I'm telling you, it's like he'd probably be one of the richest people in the entire world.
Right. Because now is the sport, a lot of guys are doing deals, sponsorships, posts. Like, that's the new, what's the new thing with social media?
Not cutting you off, and Floyd never had not one endorsement.
Really?
Not one endorsement. That's why it makes it so much more impressive what he was able to do. Unlike all the other great athletes in different sports, you know, they had the Nike deals, you know, this deal and that deal, but everything that he did,
that was all the money team, TMT. That was all. It's all him.
Yeah, all him.
Nobody.
His brand.
I thought you were gonna bring me a TMT hat today.
I got you.
Okay, good.
Don't worry.
I need some. I
got you. I want definitely want you to rock it.
What was that? What was that word again? Stelio?
Stilo.
I want to stilo one of those TMT hats. That's what I want. I want to stilo one of those.
Oh boy.
I need my own street cred. All right. So do we have a prediction? I hate putting you on the spot, but do we have a prediction for Charlo Canelo?
Yes. Tune in this Saturday night.
Yeah.
Showtime pay-per-view. Order now. Don't wait. Don't wait. This is one of them incredible events. The undercard is, and actually in my probably almost 30 years of boxing, this is definitely in my top 3.
The undercard.
The undercard.
Wow. Who should we be looking at in that? Who's the most exciting?
Jesus Ramos taking on Erickson Lubin.
Okay. Yeah, Hammer Lubin.
Yes, that's going to be an incredible co-feature. You got two guys that when that opening bell rings, they're going to be right there for each other. You know, it's going to be a war. Then you have in the fight before that, you 2 former world champions. You have Mario Barrios and Udonis Ugas, and everyone remembers Ugas from basically kind of sending Manny Pacquiao into retirement.
Oh, that was him. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And Barrios is the one who fought Tank Davis in an incredible fight.
Yeah.
That Tank was able to stop him down the stretch. You know, he's a warrior. And then in the opening fight, you have rising middleweight Elijah Garcia taking on Armando Resendez. Again, so from top to bottom, this is an incredible undercard, and the fans need to order now. Don't wait.
Yeah.
Showtime pay-per-view. Go to it now.
I mean,
Showtime.
there's few fights that drum up this amount of enthusiasm each year, so it's amazing to have this. And before we let you go, 2 last questions. One, we're with Leonard Ellerbe, a guy who took Mayweather from boxer to brand, working together with an incredible team. If there was something you can impart on our audience, before, we all got the stilo. We all got that now. But beyond that, let's just say I feel like you just have that mastermind quality. You know how to make anything better. Like if I owned a coffee shop, you'd probably be able to know how I could take this coffee shop to the Starbucks level, or where I'm competing in those territories. What can we learn? What can we implement in our own life, regardless if I'm a small business owner, I want to be the best broadcaster, whatever it is? What are the foundational pieces, maybe a word or 2 of advice you have for us where we can be the best we can be in whatever industry it is?
Strong belief in God. Have a belief in your family, and have a great support system. And be the best version of yourself every single day. And don't pay attention to what others think, what they say. Stay in your lane and just be positive. If
I had 3 Mayweathers with me and you, could we get me to become on an undercard? How quickly could this happen? If I was in the gym, because I know Mayweather's got a gym. He's got the gym here. If I went every day and I had you around me, I had the team, where could I be in, let's say, a year if I trained every day?
I would have needed to get you at 5 years old, like when Floyd first started, when he was running 5 miles.
What if I have the intellect of a 6-year-old? Does that make a difference?
Boxing is a brutal sport, and it's not for everyone.
Maybe I want to do the B-hop thing. Like I want to be like Bernard Hopkins. I want to fight in my 50s. So right. I'm 31 right now.
He's an incredible fighter, too.
He's
a physical specimen, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he never drank himself, too. He was an incredible fighter.
See? All right. We're going to work on it. Next time you're here, I'm going to be drenched in TMT gear.
Yes, you are.
And I'm going to be stilo-ing the entire situation of the Mayweather Promotions team. And I'm going to start training, and we'll see what happens.
Come over to the
gym. Roger could get me,
Well,
could somebody get me?
Roger was, rest in peace. He passed away a couple years ago. That's my guy. But we have other great trainers at the gym who work with young up-and-coming fighters and new people who want to learn the sport of just initially starting out with boxing.
There we go. All right, the great Leonard Ellerbe here inside the den for the Vegas Huddle. One day we got to get Floyd in here too.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Would he come in here?
I can't promise you that, because he's just living life. Just one day he's in Vegas, and then the next day he's in Aruba.
And but Vegas is a special place, right? I mean, this is home, right? And the way that this city has taken, to sports and, just used to be a boxing place, right? And now it's like, look at how Vegas has become the capital of the world when it comes to sports. And
there's more to come, more to come. We have some incredible teams here. Shout out to Mark Davis, for his vision with the Aces. They're on a roll. They've got game 2 tonight.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. The Raiders are here. So Vegas is it's going to be the biggest city in the United States.
Wow. You heard it there. Leonard Ellerbe, small, humble beginnings in the D.C. area, and look where this guy's at now. He's coming up with great mastermind stuff with Mark Cuban, right near Dancing with the Stars and working with the great Floyd Mayweather. Make sure you go check out this great fight. We got Charlo. We got Canelo. Showtime pay-per-view. You're going to want to see that. And as always, it's great to see you guys here in the huddle. We got great conversations with guys just like this all the time. Make sure you like, subscribe, go wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, watch us on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network as well as on YouTube. Leonard Ellerbe, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me on. I had a great time.
Oh, we loved having you. Till next time, I'm your host, Mike Davis from the Vegas Huddle. We'll see you next time.